everybody, welcome back. Unversed podcast. Me and Shelby today, and we're going to be talking about the Crisis on Earth X crossover. It's going to be spoiler heavy, so if you haven't seen it yet, go check out the spoiler-free review that we got. So, Shelby, what's your initial thoughts coming into this?
Going into it, I was like, basically kind of bummed out because there was no build-up for this at all in either of the shows I watch, right? Arrow and Flash. And I don't watch the other two, but I figured it would be the same there. Which just kind of told me, like, oh, nothing of consequence is going to happen in this crossover. It's just going to be like some random one-off like it was last year. In last year it was like really frustrating because it was like this big deal stuff, both in terms of like the alien involvement, which was not something we even had in the show prior to that point, and the whole like Men in Black guys, right? Like where there's this high level of the government and all this stuff, and there could have been the potential for Justice League, but ultimately not Justice League, but Justice Society, right? There was all this potential, and really nothing happened last year. It was just like, oh look, this happened, and then boom, just go back to the show like nothing happened, and it was really weird. And ultimately, like I wish it never happened last year, basically. But this looked better. I was just kind of thinking, well, nothing's gonna happen. It's just gonna go back to normal. I kind of feel like, what's the point? I'd rather be watching main plot. But looking forward to the Barry and Oliver moments, and remaining optimistic. Like I want it to be good. It's just kind of like I feel like I've been let down a couple times now, and I was just kind of expecting some like kind of disjointed story just to be able to have these characters on screen at the same time, so they could just say, "Oh, look, we got all these characters on screen," which is what we had last time. It was just kind of an excuse to do it.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Yeah, that's a big thing too. I'm like, why didn't they advertise this more? I think it was only like a week or two before it came out where it was just like, hey, yeah, here's a trailer, here's a bunch of mini clips.
Exactly.
And I'm like, well, is this really enough? I mean, this is supposed to be a big thing, and I guess I saw on Twitter, like after it came out, I know that the Warner Brother Twitter shared some pictures, and it was just like, hey, yeah, the crossover's out, go watch all of it now.
Right.
On the CW app and stuff, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool, but why didn't I didn't see a lot of that. Even looking at the official pages on Facebook, there wasn't a lot of posts about it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like there was more build-up to the other crossovers, but I could be wrong. But yeah, it just felt like right before, all of a sudden we had all these things. I don't even think I saw all of the trailers to it. And the trailers, they just didn't really get me. I don't know, I kind of felt like it didn't really show enough of the plot. It was just like, oh, there's Nazis. It's like, well, why? Like, what else is there? I don't know, the trailers didn't really do that much for me. Other than like Overgirl, I was hyped to see. She looks really cool. So I was excited to see her definitely going in, but I wasn't really that stoked about like Black Suit Oliver or Reverse Flash just coming back.
Yeah, his name's Dark Flash in the crossover, actually.
That's right. That's the thing too. Not to get ahead of myself, but like, I thought that Dark Flash was the Earth X version of Reverse Flash, but apparently that's not the case, which is kind of less. I don't know. We could talk about that, but that's just like watching the trailer and stuff. I was like, oh, okay, well, like it's just another version of this. Like I don't know. It just wasn't particularly. I didn't really feel too strongly one way or the other, but I felt like I would have rather seen like Evil Barry.
Yeah, you would think that would be it, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, I don't know, like, yeah, like you were saying, like, the only one that was interesting was Overgirl. Mainly for her costume, right? It's the most interesting looking one, like you said.
Yeah. And ultimately, like, the way that she acted was really good. Like she did a really great job at portraying basically a totally different character, and Stephen Amell did pretty good too, but not really that different ultimately. I mean, it's different. I feel like if you've watched, every season, then maybe, you feel a little bit more like, oh, okay, like you don't really see like the hope or the happiness or like, I don't know, you see a little bit of difference, but ultimately he's kind of doing the same bit. He's just doing serious Oliver. But Overgirl's like super different. Like really, really impressed that like she was able to just pull off like a totally different version of the character.
Yeah, it was pretty good. So yeah, let's get right into it. The first thing was like, I wasn't expecting to see Earth X as the opener.
Right. That, I mean, honestly, right off the bat, my expectations shot up because it starts out, like, Stephen Amell said, oh, this is like a movie. And yeah, actually, like, it kind of is. And, that was really impressive. I really like that. I like that it starts off with, like, the actual plot. Kind of starts off like if they were doing it a movie, right? And it was cool to make the focus actually about Earth X instead of just Earth X kind of being like this side story that's just an excuse for everybody to get together, which is what I was worried about.
Yeah, and I think it was a solid intro for showing Earth X. We got the landscape, and you could tell there's CG and stuff. It's a CW. And
yeah, it was pretty good. I mean, it did mostly feel like how you like if this like how you should do it like if it was a movie. Like I was like, this is good. I liked it. Yeah. Sorry to just repeat the point, but
yeah, no worries. And then the most interesting part was like we see, I guess, like a group of people who are in the resistance, I guess, against like the Nazi regime. And here comes Evil Oliver, right? Coming in, just taking down everybody. And then to the biggest surprise so far was the fact that Patriot was here. Because from what I saw on Supergirl this season, Jimmy Olsen has not been the Patriot in a while.
Well, and yeah, honestly, that was super cool. Like I also not keeping up with that, but I remember when he was introduced on that show, and his suit was really generic looking, nothing too interesting going on. And I don't know if this is how it's supposed to look in the show now, but I'm guessing not, right? I'm guessing this is a version just made for Earth X, and it looked really cool. Like it just like the American flags and everything, and the line that they shared where how did it go? Crap. Evil Oliver says something, and then
when they first talk.
Well, right before he kills him, he goes, this flag still means something, and then Evil Oliver says, yeah, a target, and then he kills him.
Yeah.
But I feel like there was another part of that line.
Well, Jimmy, when he gets knocked down, he says, like, it's not going to end. There's always going to be more like me, fighting you. Like, this flag still means something.
Yeah. And I thought that exchange was awesome. Like, that right there just kind of showed that, like, okay, Earth X and like this universe stands up on its own right now. It doesn't need our heroes for it to be interesting.
Yeah, and honestly, this scene had made me think back to last season in Legends. I know you didn't finish it,
right?
But there is when the Legion of Doom changed reality, and like it was kind of sensed like this, where they controlled the world. And this is there was a similar scene where Felicity was a vigilante, and she got stopped by Damien Dark, and she kind of said a similar line, but it was nowhere as good as what this was.
I might have to check that out, though. That sounds a little interesting.
Yeah, it was all right. I think, it was either Damien Dark that stopped her, or like an evil version of Sarah Lance. I can't remember. But yeah, so this was a nice, strong opening for this, and it transitions into pretty much an MCU-like intro, right?
Yeah, it was totally inspired by the MCU intro. I don't think it was very good. I actually didn't really like it, but I thought that it was nice that they did an intro just for the special.
Yeah, well, I mean, I thought the music, the way they transitioned into the 4 shows was rather nice.
Yeah, it was nice, but I don't know, it definitely could have been done better, but, I'm going to give them credit for that, for sure.
Yeah. And then so we get just a bunch of scenes with all the main heroes just fighting enemies, talking about Barry and Iris's wedding, like if they're going to go or not. And I was like, what, like, you're just going to have Flash fight King Shark out of nowhere?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing here is like, I like and I don't like this because this is so much like if we were getting like a DC EU, or I'm sorry, like a DC animated movie of this story. Like, how would you have the intro go? Well, it'd probably go something like this, right? Yeah. Where you just have the Flash, all these like kind of generic fight scenes and stuff, and that's cool. But given there is already like, there's already plot on all of these shows happening, it really derails the actual plot. And same thing with Oliver. It's like Oliver came out just in the previous episode back in the suit, for a special circumstance, basically. And then he's just fighting like generic ninjas. Like, yeah, it's a fun scene, and if you don't watch Arrow, then it looks fine. But if you do watch Arrow, then you're like, this feels like really forced, basically.
Yeah, I wasn't really feeling it. Even with, on Karazhan fighting a Dominator.
Yeah, I thought that was in poor taste because it just reminds you of how crappy last crossover was.
Yeah, and she even delivers that line where it was just like, you're so last year. And I was like, really? You're gonna do that right now?
I gotta say, the Supergirl stuff was horrible in this episode, where just really all of it. That was pretty unpleasant. I was disappointed that, like, even though it's not really a Supergirl episode because it's the crossover, it still had to be just as crappy when it did do the Supergirl moments.
Yeah, I mean, it gives us the recap of what was going on Supergirl this season. The whole her sister Alex breaking up with her girlfriend and stuff, and it's like, okay, yeah, let's just go to the wedding so we're not stuck at home being depressed. Was the whole thing, and then like the whole Mon-El stuff they mentioned too. Yeah, like I wasn't really like, yeah, it's an alright scene, but I don't know. I was expecting better quality, right?
Yeah, or at least something different considering it's the special. Like that scene when they're like sitting there eating ice cream and just like on the couch and all that stuff. It's like it just really stands out in contrast. Like you don't have scenes like that on Arrow or The Flash. It's very weird when you see it in like close comparison to the other shows.
Yeah, it's a very different show. Part of me wants to say it's because it didn't start on the CW, right? But I don't know. This is its second season on the CW, so it should be able to feel right with the other shows.
Yeah.
And then so we're getting we get pretty much all the main people. Oh, and then like the legends part, like they were fighting just random knights or something. Back in like the 1800s or something, and that kind of bothered me because I'm like, well, what are they doing? Like their whole purpose this season is to pretty much get things that are out of their timeline and put them back. And so it's like, what was the point of them fighting these guys, like carrying some package or whatever?
Right, this was just another example of like, oh, well, let's just show a cool scene of like them doing generic stuff for their show, and it was like, get it? They time travel, so. Which I guess, like, if you don't watch the show, which most people don't watch that show, I guess, like, does a decent idea of, like, being, like, getting the point across that these guys time travel. But, yeah, it's just another example of, like, this doesn't fit with what's actually going on in the show.
Yeah. So we get a bunch of scenes with everybody pretty much prepping for the wedding. And here we get I'm pretty sure it's the first and last moment that we got with Barry and Oliver.
Yep.
And yeah, watching the crossover, it really bummed me out. I'm like, how come we didn't get more of that?
Mm-hmm.
And go ahead.
Well, it's disappointing too because it's not a bad moment, right? And it ends basically with the comment from Oliver, which is in the trailer, that oh, I'm supposed to be the all-knowing mentor, right? Well, given that like this crossover actually focuses pretty heavily on Oliver and like an alternate version of him, basically like, you know, this is how you could turn out, and they kind of make the point that like Felicity's the reason that he doesn't, in a way. Like, why wasn't there a scene with Barry like reinforcing that idea in Oliver? Like, maybe there's a moment where Oliver like sees this version of himself and kind of like has some self-doubt. Barry could have like kind of reinforced, no, Barry, like, Oliver, you are not that guy. Like, just because he looks like you, just because he is you in another timeline, like, you have to understand that that's not you. Like, they could have done something like that, but ultimately it's like, you know, not only is this the last moment where we get the two of them having a moment, this is basically the last time we actually get to have like the Flash be the Flash in this crossover. Like, he's kind of checks out the whole time, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's not until like the back half does he actually start doing things.
Yeah, but most of the time he's like just zipping around and just doesn't really add anything, which is weird. Just kind of there.
Yeah, he's just kind of there, and it was even pointed out as just like, well, you know, jumping ahead, he was fighting Dark Flash, and it's like, how come he's like, people point out like, why does he feel so much slower than like what he's supposed to be now in the show, right?
Yeah,
They always kept making a big deal in the beginning, like, oh man, like, you're faster than you've ever been.
Yeah, it was is that whole part of it, I gotta say, like, was very disappointing. I mean, Reverse or Dark Flash seemed much less powerful than he should be, and so did Barry. And also, it's just like, okay, so like, we're supposed to believe literally all they did was race. They didn't even fight, basically. You know, I mean, until like, I guess the end, like, they don't do anything. They don't even focus on it really at all in the episode. They just like, all right, they're zipping around somewhere. Let's focus on someone else fighting.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of like a lazy way to like have them on the show, but then not have them on the show.
Yeah, and then we get some Legends plot going on with they asked Cisco and Harry to Stein and Jax asked them if they could take a crack at trying to find a cure for Firestorm, because over on Legends, Jax wants Stein to stay at home with his grandson and all that. And they're like, yeah, we made it. You know, it took a while, but we made it. It's basically just, you just drink it and you guys, it's over.
So, do you know if there was already a scene on Legends previously this season where they went and visited Cisco?
I don't think there was a scene where they visited them.
See, because why didn't they do that? Why wasn't there just like a random scene in one of the episodes where like like it could have even been a throwaway line. It didn't even actually have to feature the other characters, but it could have, right? Like, oh, why was Jackson Stein here? Oh, well, they asked us to help with this formula. We're going to see if we can while we're not working on focusing on the thinker or whatever. Like, that would have been solid build-up for this, especially given how much this ends up like being part of the plot.
Yeah, I know. I only saw the first episode for Legends, but it was there. Jax asked Ray if he could what's it called? If he could find a cure. Mm-hmm. And I guess through there they just somehow like, okay, well, let's hit up Cisco, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty sure there wasn't a scene where they went back to Central City. Because if Legends is consistent as it is, they never really go back to the present until like crossovers. Or like the season finale.
Yeah.
And then so they're at this, it's the night before the wedding, they're at the party. And of course, like, it didn't click until Sarah hopped into the scene where she met Alex, and I was like, oh, I know something's gonna happen now.
Yeah, it was so forced. It was so like unnecessary, And let me just say, why was Alex here at all? I mean,
So the only reason she was there was because she became Kara's +1, so that way she wouldn't be sad by herself, is what I got.
I know, but yeah, no, I know that, I get that, but like, it's just like, okay, you guys are gonna do this crossover, you're gonna struggle to balance all these characters, you're gonna make all this like stupid stuff happen where like you have some of the characters not even on screen most of the time, but you're gonna have Alex be a main focus. Why? Like, and also Sarah for that matter. Like, okay, I get it. Like, they think that Sarah is like a big deal in this universe, even though realistically, I don't think anybody cares. Like, I know we don't care, but I don't think that a lot of people care because a lot of people, like most people, don't even watch Legends, and it's weird that like they did so much focus on Alex and Sarah and them together, and it's like, who cares? Like, honestly, it didn't service the plot. It wasn't even like one of those B plot things where it was like a parallel of A plot, so it it didn't like tie in any way.
Yeah.
It was just kind of there. I mean, like, I don't know, like that was just really dumb, and they spent so much time on it too. Like, we get it, we get it. Like, we got it. Like, they could have just had like literally one scene and then referenced it later, but they didn't. They like kept going back to it, and it was like, really, like, we understand what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, the first time, right, like the next morning when
Yeah.
Sarah brought it up, that's fine. But then they brought it back, I think, in like the second part.
Yeah, they just like kept going back to the well on this.
And it's like, well, I get it, like, you're having conflict in your character, Alex, but we don't need this for the main plot, like you're saying.
I don't know what's going on in Supergirl completely, but I understand that there's some drama with Mon-El and Kara, but I thought it would have been a lot more interesting to have Mon-El on the show in the crossover interacting with everyone else, and maybe them dealing with their relationship in like the B plot.
So in Supergirl, the season finale last season, Mon-El had to leave because the atmosphere was covered in lead, and like Daxons can't breathe lead or whatever, so he's gone. And
He's back though, isn't he? I thought he came back.
He's back, but from what I read in the little recap stuff we got,
He's got a wife now or something?
yeah, he went to the future.
What?
Yeah, he somehow wound up in the future and then came back to the present, but he's married. So that's why him and Kara aren't a thing anymore, and that's why she's all sad, because it's just like, well, this sucks. There's even a nice scene with her and Barry talking about that, because she brings up how, like, I should just be Supergirl all the time. Like, that's the whole point of this season. And then she brings up Mon-El about how, like, well, yeah, but there's this whole situation going on with this, And I was like, yeah, it'd be cool to see Mon-El. Like, I'm surprised he's not there. But it's because of this weird plot line going with him. Now, like, well, he's already married in the future, and it's like, what?
That's really unfortunate, because like he's actually a pretty decent character from what I saw.
Yeah, when he got developed enough, he was a good character. And so I don't know about you, but like it feels a little weird that we keep getting like Marvel references in the CW this year.
Yep.
The whole scene with Jax talking about like, oh, am I gonna be like Spider-Man? Like have a Spidey sense and all this stuff. And I was like, what? Like, I don't understand this, like this world's like fiction,
Yeah, I mean, I guess like the Marvel exists just as it does in our world, but no DC, I guess is the idea. I don't know. It's like back in the Raimi Spider-Man's. Aunt May says to him, "You're not Superman, and it's like, oh, that's actually pretty weird.
Yeah.
And Connor has always talked to me about, like how he thinks it's a much better like concept where it's like, in these superhero universes, instead it's as if no comic books or even the idea of superheroes, like as we understand it, doesn't even exist. And I think that is a lot more interesting, where it's like just this alternate timeline where instead of like having the fiction of it, it's just a thing that exists in the world instead, not both.
Yeah, and I think this is like This is like, I think, the third one I've noticed so far, because there was the whole Incredible Hulk thing, you know, over on Arrow, or not Arrow, over on Flash. And then there was a few others, and I was like, yeah, this just feels weird. Like, why do we keep bringing it up? And like the fact that it's like long scenes like this.
It is really weird. And yeah, that scene itself was pretty strange. I thought it was just kind of stupid because it's like, okay, like what's even the point? Like, as a joke maybe, but like he wasn't like Stein wasn't joking, he was serious, and it's like I don't know, like it just wasn't funny, and it was just kind of stupid, right? Like, and it went on for a long time.
Yeah, and so the whole point of this was so that way Jax could stay as a legend and like have powers to go fight with them. And then, you know, Jax got upset and like they were arguing and he just walked away. And during this, Oliver calls back to the moment he had with Barry talking about whether or not he wants to marry Felicity, you know? And here at the reception, he starts thinking like, you know what? That's not a bad idea. And he talks to Felicity about it, and she's like, yeah, no, I love you, but I don't want to marry you. Right? And it's just like they're having a little conflict, and then she kind of just shouts it out, like, I don't want to marry you, Oliver, you know? It's a weird scene. And then we get our explanation later, which I'm like, really? Like, that's kind of weak. I don't know.
Yeah, it was really stupid. I mean, it didn't even really seem to have an explanation, to be honest, because they were going to get married before, right? And she never really acted like this before, and then like to say like, oh, well, because things, I guess like her main point was that like, oh, everything's going well, and I don't want to ruin it by doing this. It's like, yeah, that doesn't really make sense. But I also kind of disagree with them forcing Oliver to want to marry her and like to do it right now. Like if they were going to set up that he was talking about it and then at the end of the season of Arrow he proposes, sure. But I don't know, it was like a lot to happen
in this crossover.
Well, because like in Arrow, like they just became official again like 2 episodes ago or something, right? It was like not that long ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and then it pops back up at the end, which is, they really could have done a better job at what they did. But yeah, so then it goes to the next day at the wedding itself. Everyone's getting ready, waiting for Iris to show up. And, what'd you think of this waitress that popped up talking to Barry?
Okay. Immediately when I saw this happen, I was like, okay, so there's 2 things she could be. One, she's from Earth X. Now, we know that's not the case, so it's not that one. So the other one is she's their daughter from the future.
Yeah,
right?
That's what I was thinking to him, like, oh, she's like, the way she's acting, I'm like, she's got to be from the future.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's the last time we see her, so I hope she shows back up on Flash.
Yeah, I just was really surprised that it didn't pay off here, but I'm gonna like it if it does pay off later. I mean, that's the main thing that I want is them to build up to things like this. And it's weird to start building up in the crossover and then pay it off later, but hey, that's still not bad. Yeah, hopefully it's paid off soon though. Like I want to know what that was about. Clearly, like it's got to be that, right? What else could it be?
Yeah, because I don't think it would have paid off here. Because if it did, that would mean she would be from Earth X, right? Because that's the whole plot for this.
Right.
But yeah, like that's the whole speculation. I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't doubt if like daughter, granddaughter, or something. You know, kind of like a what's his name, like Impulse, right? Barry's grandson from the future comes back in time for all that stuff.
Exactly, and that's, I mean, the whole idea of like maybe like that happening, like maybe she's a speedster and she comes back, and becomes like part of the cast next season, maybe. Like that would be pretty cool. I'd be really on board with that. Maybe get rid of Harrison Wells for a season.
Yeah, because I mean, as cool as Harrison Wells is, we don't need him every season. You know, like this season of Flash, we're starting to feel that like, yeah, we don't need him on the show. So the ceremony's happening, and before they say I do, here comes the Nazis. Well, actually, first one of them shoots the priest.
Yeah, vaporizes him.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, okay, that was unexpected.
Yeah, really. He was like the only guy that died, and that was I don't know, that was kind of sad. Right? I don't know, that was kind of like caught off guard.
And so I think this is a cool scene for the whole team up stuff going on. But the main thing I was bothered with is like, well, you have like your boss there, Barry. You know, you have all these normal people, and then you and Wally are just running around, you know, getting into safety. I get it and all, but like, not everybody knows you're the Flash, kind of thing, right?
Okay, exactly. That's the thing that was a little weird. Is like, why do you have all these like normies here, and then you guys are just gonna whip out your powers? But then later they go and say that Heatwave like zaps them and erases their memory.
Yeah, is that what happened?
Yeah, that's what he said. He's like, that's right. Nobody knows your secret identities, and it was like, is that a thing that they can do now? Like, I don't know. That's kind of weird. That would even, like, why is it even a thing? But also, like, for that matter, like, either Barry or Kid Flash could have easily taken out the Nazis right there, right? Like, they didn't need to just,
they didn't need everybody.
Yeah, like, the speedsters were so, like, nerfed in this crossover. Like, they were so weak. So, like, I don't get it. Like, really, it's like, don't even, obviously, I mean, I guess they needed it because of the plot, but, like, what's the point of having them if they're going to be so, like, powered down and, like, unable to actually, like, do what they would be able to do in their own show?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just to show off everybody else fight, right? I think that's what it has to be. And so we get Oliver showing off some skills, right? Like he shoots an arrow away from like civilians or something, right? And I was like, oh yeah, that's very like that'd be a very Green Arrow thing to show. And then we get Kara fighting Overgirl, right? Like they fly out of the building and they're flying around doing all this stuff. And then they come down back into the building, and this part bothered me because not for what happens. Like yeah, like you know, Kara does like the Hulk slap, right? Creates like a shockwave, and like it disorients everybody. And when that happened, you see Cisco trip. And now he's unconscious for pretty much the whole crossover.
Yeah, so like the way that they got rid of people really didn't seem to make sense to me. Like, okay, so that happens. He's just not available the whole time. And then like same thing with Wally. It's like, Wally, we need you to just not be useful. And he's like, but I want to be useful. And they're like, no.
Yeah, that bothered me a lot. I was like, yeah, like, why is he going to be staying with Joe the whole time? Like, what about everyone else's family, right? I don't know. The way, like you said, the way they took out characters, it really bothered me a lot.
And you know, I also actually didn't like that Arrow and Supergirl only fought their counterparts. Like, they didn't switch it up and have Oliver fight Overgirl, really, and mix it up, or like Dark Flash and Oliver fight. Like, why not? Why not do that like pairing? Like, have people fight, you know, see their powers go against each other, not just like lasers and lasers and arrows and speed and speed. It just, that part wasn't very interesting. Made those fights less interesting, I should say.
Yeah, it's very generic. Cause like, that's what you normally do, right? When you have like doppelgangers of the heroes, like they would switch it up. So that way they could get the upper hand or surprise. I don't know. So they retreat, but Prometheus gets captured. He gets defeated by Sarah and Alex teaming up.
All right, so like, let's talk about Prometheus. Prometheus's inclusion is one of the most interesting parts, right? Like, that's really weird. Of all of the characters, Prometheus is the only, like, why Prometheus? Why is he the only one? There could have been so many other villains or just other characters from Earth X that were involved, and it was really just him. And then it's like, nobody questions it. No one's like, why is Prometheus here? Why does that guy look like Prometheus? There's not even a line from Oliver or like an expression or anything, which is so weird. Like, why was there nothing until he took off the mask? And then of course, like, okay, so like, really, Sarah beat him? I don't think so. With a lamp? Should a lamp on a chain? Like,
yeah. I mean, it's...
And Alex, like, why is Alex as skilled as Sarah, basically?
Well, that's her character, too, is that she fights aliens all the times, right? So she has to be that skilled.
I just...
it's definitely weird, you know? This is the moment where I wish we still had Roy on the show, you know?
Yes,
Roy would fight Prometheus.
Yeah, that'd be great. And you know, the thing is like, even though I don't like Sarah at this point, I still can like respect the fact that like her character is supposed to be this skilled. Like, okay, I can buy that.
Mm-hmm.
But not the Alex bit. Like, no way. Like, I can't get behind that. Like, her being as skilled as basically everyone else.
Yeah, I'm just like, okay, it's whatever. But yeah, so we get the reveal after they're trying to interrogate. I like the scene initially where they come back to the main room and basically tell Oliver, like, yeah, we couldn't get any information, you know? And then Oliver walks down there, you know? And I was just like, oh, yeah, you know, because Oliver could get answers when he wants to, right? I wish he had a line along those lines saying, like, well, he will answer now or something, right?
Yeah, that would have been good. But it was weird. Like, Oliver was weirdly quiet until he actually got down there and started talking, right?
Yeah, because then we get the face reveal and find out that Prometheus is the Earth X Tommy. Which I'm pretty like, I'm like, oh, I knew it because we got that news before the crossover saying, like, this actor was going to come back on the show to play Tommy. And I'm like, oh, well, so it's got to be for the crossover, right?
Yeah, and... Man, I gotta say, I'm extremely upset at this because how many seasons have we been has there been theories about different characters being Tommy or Tommy coming back in some way, and like we've literally only had the actor come back for the flashback in I think only one episode, and that was it, and he's actually coming back now for a present day scene as a villain. Because we've never seen Tommy do anything like that. You know, he was just a guy. He never had any skills. And he's got, like, skills. He's freaking Prometheus, which was a theory, you know, last season. And it's like, we get nothing. Like, he's not that skilled. And as we're about to discuss, like, he just offs himself immediately. And it doesn't make any damn sense. They weren't going to torture him. Like, it was just, why did he kill himself? I mean, his teammates certainly acted caught off guard by it as well.
Yeah, it was, it is upsetting because we only got him on screen for like, what, 5 minutes? At best.
Yeah. And it wasn't bad, don't get me wrong. I did enjoy it. I liked what happened, but I didn't like that it was like, oh, well, you know, he's a villain, so like, he's not going to let himself be captured. He's just going to take the pill. It's just, yeah,
it wasn't, I feel like they only brought him back because of the speculation for him being Prometheus, you know?
Yeah, I think so. Which is too bad.
Yeah, because that being the case, and it's just like, oh, that kind of sucks, because it's like, well, you could have done a lot more with him as Prometheus.
Like, really, that should have come down to, like, a scene where he and Oliver fight, and Oliver basically has to kill him. And then later, you know, they could reference, like, his guilt over, like, having to actually kill Tommy versus, like, his guilt of, like, Tommy actually dying. And that wouldn't be bad. But now it's like this guy was a dick and he killed himself. Okay.
Yeah, now pretty much we really can't have Tommy come back, right? Because, like, what would be the point now?
Yeah, they kind of just, like, blew that load, and there you go.
Yeah, so that it was upsetting. And we got more Stein and Jack's arguments about like, you know, trying to give Jax powers, and that, you know, that pops up quite a lot in the crossover, which is whatever, you know. And during all this time, they're trying to find the location of Overgirl and them, and they find the place. They go, Oliver, Barry, and Kara, right, the Trinity. Which I'm glad it was just them three, right? Like, I'm glad Sarah didn't tag along.
Yeah, that is true.
And you know, they have a little humor scene, right, where Barry and Kara get there first, and they're waiting on Oliver. And he's just like, "Look, I don't have super speed, okay?"
Yeah, that was fun. I like that.
That's good. Yeah, and then so they see their counterparts, and this is where it does get upsetting, because Dark Flash explains that he is Eobard Thawne from Earth 1. And I don't like it, because why isn't it the Eobard Thawne actor? Why is it still Tom Cavanaugh? Right? And two, why is he acting so goddamn weird? Right? Like, this isn't the Reverse Flash that we've known since season 1 of Flash. It's just, I'm just so upset. Like, this is the main problem I have with the crossover is Reverse Flash.
Yeah, I don't really understand why it's supposed to be the Earth 1 Reverse Flash, and yeah, I mean, like, I like Tom Cavanaugh playing him normally, right? I love him in season 1. He's so great. But he's not even doing that version here. He's like just acting weird, like you said, right? And it's not like he acts like Eobard played by the other actor. I don't know. It was just like bizarre. And I guess like what scheduling conflicts? Did they think it would be like really fun because they're like, oh look, we've got like HR or not HR.
We got Harry.
We got Harry in one scene, and then the next scene you see Reverse Flash. Like, wow, look at how different his acting is. In case you didn't get that when we had 5 of them on screen like 2 episodes ago, like, yeah,
and like his voice too was my problem. Like what voice are you trying to make? Like, is it supposed to be menacing? Because it's just bad.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is like in season 1 he had a menacing voice because he was like, I'm Harrison Wells, and then he's like, I'm Harrison Wells when he became Reverse Flash. But in this, it was like he was trying to redo that, but then just took it to the extreme and was like, hi Barry, I'm Harrison Wells. Like, it's just like way over the top, and he just looked weird. Like, I guess it's weird because like the actors never looked so old as he does in this scene, or in this crossover as Reverse Flash, because as normal Harry, he looks fine, but I don't know, he like looked older. Like his face shape just looked like he was getting older. Like I don't know, and that's yeah, I didn't like that. He's menacing and he looks cool in season 1. Not really here.
Yeah, it's just bad, and like he doesn't give a real explanation of how he wound up on Earth X, right? Because as far as we're concerned, before this, he died in Legends last season, right? To Black Flash. Like that was the last time we saw that version of Reverse Flash, the one that was a whatever they call it in Legends, an anomaly, right? A time anomaly.
Right, yeah. And well, here's the other thing too that I had a problem with Dark Flash here is like, okay, so yeah, we don't know how he ended up here. We don't know why he's here. Other than I mean, is his whole thing like, well, eventually this regime is going to try to conquer the multiverse, and then I'll get Barry because I'll go to his Earth. I don't even know, but like, are we supposed to believe that he's actually like gives a shit about the Nazi regime? Because like, right, like, because he's just like pretending so he can like he's like using them in a way, right? Like, or doing what's convenient. Like I don't know, because then there's scenes where like Overgirl's like, oh, you know, do this for our Führer and all this stuff, and it's like, Yeah, but we all know Reverse Flash doesn't actually care, right? Or does he? Like, I don't know what they were trying to do with that. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
where does he actually stand, and is he like tricking them, or is he not? Like, I don't know. It seemed really like not clear what the idea was there.
It's implied that he's just using them to get back to Earth 1 or something to capture Barry. I don't. His whole character, the whole reason he's there makes no sense.
Yeah.
Cause so I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, well, if he did die by Black Flash, that means this is just, him time traveling, right? Like when he showed up last season.
Yeah.
So that would mean that he is dead, but this is a part of his life that he did eventually. But it doesn't feel like it's implied like that. Especially at the end when him and Barry fight, for the last time, and just
and when, and he's like, "Oh, which face will I wear next time, Barry?"
Yeah,
which
oh,
is
man.
the implication that he's like gonna be now a third face, right? Like we're gonna get caught off guard because someone else is actually gonna be Reverse Flash this time. Like I guess, or is it just to be like, "Oh, next time it's gonna be the other actor, but he wasn't available this time, and we're just throwing this in so that way it's still the same character." Like I guess I don't know.
I don't understand, because he's like a different face. Like, what do you mean? So you're not going to be the other guy that plays Eobard, and you're not going to be the Harrison Wells face next time you show up?
Right.
So it's like, are you going to be just a different character altogether next time? Like, I don't...
And why the hell did Barry let him go?
I think the scene is fine on it, because I think Barry thought that he was also just like, it's just him time traveling kind of thing, right? Or the fact that he just has to let him go or something, because he never stops Reverse Flash or something, right? But even that scene with him and Barry talking at the end, I thought was way less quality compared to when he was talking to Reverse Flash last season.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's the thing. Like, Barry didn't even seem like Barry in that scene, and like, it just seemed almost like a throwaway scene. Like, I feel like we had more investment in like Alex coming to terms with her relationship drama than we did with like anything going on here.
Yeah, and even the way Barry fought Reverse Flash, I'm like, this doesn't feel like Barry. Like, we saw all that hate that he had last season, and he came to terms with, because when Reverse Flash left last season, he came to terms like, yeah, I'll be ready for you next time. I'm like, if we're gonna fight, then I'm gonna be ready. And then here, he's just angry again that he's back.
Yep. Yeah, it's super weird. I really wish, like I said before, like, why even do this weird stuff when you could just have it be Evil Barry?
Yeah, Evil Barry. Well, it's probably because Savitar last season, right?
That's a good point, but still, there's a lot of other options I think they could have gone with in doing this. This is just like, I think they need to stop messing with the Reverse Flash character because they're just ruining it.
Yeah, they really are. But yeah, so back to this, their first confrontation, right? The 3-3, like the face reveal, like, oh, it's Evil Kara and Evil Oliver. And, they're married on Earth X, which I thought was interesting.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, because the way it plays out in the story and for the rest of the crossover was pretty nice. And then another surprising thing that popped up was, Oliver has kryptonite.
Yeah. Yeah, that was great. I like that a lot.
Yeah, because this scene, I was like, oh, so yeah, he's just, again, this proves that he's Batman. So that was crazy. I was like, wow, he found kryptonite on Earth 1. So I hope that means we get, like, I don't know, like Power Girl or something for Earth 1, right?
Yeah, I mean, they talked about it, and they talked about that as a possibility, and they even said they're like, oh, there's another Kara. There's 53 Karas, so like confirmed, right?
Well,
like,
there's 53 Kryptons, is what he specifically said.
I thought he said both. I thought he said there's 53 Karas and 53 Kryptons.
Well, if there's 53 Kryptons, Well, implying, yeah, there is 53 Karas, but whether or not she left Krypton, right, I think is implied in there. Or something.
That's a good point. But yeah, hopefully there is a Power Girl or something on this Earth.
Yeah, so super interesting that he had a kryptonite arrow, and then so they started fighting.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget. I think they the evil versions retreat right at this point because I want to say because of Overgirl.
Yeah, is that what it was? That she got hurt and they needed to retreat?
I think so, because the whole premise we find out after because when they head back to the base to Star Labs, they took the kryptonite arrow, took her blood, and showed that there was like way more radiation compared to Kara's blood.
Right.
Which is an interesting spin on it, because so we find out that Overgirl's sick because she's absorbed too much radiation. And so that's how they track him again using some system. And so this time a full team goes to attack the base. And then so here's the Earth X Metallo shows up to shoot Kara, so that way she's out of commission.
Has he been on Supergirl before?
Yeah, he was in.
Okay.
He was in season 1, I think.
Okay, because yeah, the whole time I was like, I don't know who this guy is, but he looks really stupid.
Yeah, he's just a robot that that's infused with kryptonite or something, so all of his energy attacks have kryptonite in it.
Yeah, I really didn't. I thought it was just really poorly done, really stupid looking.
Yeah, so while they're fighting over there, we get Evil Oliver going to Star Labs to go take it over. And I thought this was a nice scene when he was just down by himself, and then the lights turned off and turned back on, and there was Team Arrow ready to fight him, you know? I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. And I liked that he was kind of like taking this approach kind of while they were all away, that he was going to go infiltrate them. I wish we saw more of his like supposed ruthlessness though, because it really didn't come across too much. I mean,
it was just regular Oliver, right?
Yeah, I mean, like he didn't actually do anything that was ruthless. He just spoke like he was going to.
Yeah, so we see him. We see him fight Team Arrow. And of course he wins. I would expect that, right? Because he's Oliver.
Yeah, I was about to be like really upset if they were able to take him down because yeah, I mean, like we know Oliver just being a good guy and like being like he's not gonna hurt. I mean, last season he was willing to hurt them, but even then, like he should not be willing to hurt them as much as this guy should be willing to hurt them, you know? So, like, you would think evil Oliver would definitely be able to, like, just destroy them.
Yeah. And so he throws them all into the metahuman prisons with Cisco's there, too, still knocked out with Harry. And then he finally wakes up. Right? I think in the third episode, he wakes up.
Yeah. But then he's just trapped still.
Yeah, because, like, oh, well, the thing's on, so I can't do anything. It's like, really? Like, why didn't you do more, Cisco?
Yeah, it's and it's weird. Like Cisco never made like a contingency for themselves if they got trapped in there.
Yeah, you would think he would have something ready for that. And then so the initial team that went, you know, the Trinity with Firestorm and I think Alex and Sarah, they all get sent to Earth X, and they're in a prison camp. And in there they meet, we don't know initially, but eventually we know that one of the guys they meet is the Ray. And this is another scene that bothered me, right? Because then we see Leonard Snark come back, right? Captain Cold.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, so he's a good guy on this side of the Earth, on Earth X, right? It lets them free, and then when they go to base, and it's like, oh, so Ray and Snart are a thing. And I was like, why? Like, we just met this new character, and like, why do we need all this information for him right now? Like, this feels unnecessary.
Yeah, it definitely was just not really needed. And frankly, this is another, I mean, not that point, but Snart here is like another example of like, just let the character go. Stop bringing back these characters so many times that like we don't care about them anymore. Because this guy, like, yeah, it's funny for one scene, like that. Oh, look, he looks like Snart, but he's super different. It's like, okay, we got it. But apparently, like, he's gonna stick around. Like, we get it. Like, I don't know. Like, and he's already come back, right? Like as a ghost or whatever, as a memory or something for Heatwave.
For Heatwave for Mick. And then they get a scene which I'm like, why? Like, I don't understand these. The whole reason for Snart's there, and it's like, well, because the fan base loves him so much as Leonard Snart. Yeah. And then
too much stuff for the fandom happens in this crossover.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot. I mean, like, we see, like, even, like, all the, so we find out that Oliver on Earth X is the Fuhrer.
Yeah, that's something that, like, I totally did not pick up on. In fact, I almost thought Lance was at first when they were talking about it. And then I was like, oh, wait, it's Oliver? Okay, I didn't realize that at all. That seems like that just didn't make any sense to me. Like, why is he out there hunting people if he's also the Führer?
Yeah, like even like the conversations that Kara and Eobard had made it sound like, oh no, he's just part of the regime.
Yeah,
like do it for the fatherland and all that stuff. And it's like, oh, okay. And then finding out that he's that he's the Führer, I was like, oh wow, okay. I was surprised, but then thinking on it more, I'm like, well, I'm not really that surprised that Oliver Queen would be that high in that hierarchy, right?
Is it supposed to kind of parallel the fact that he's the mayor also?
Maybe. I could see that happening, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we get an evil Lance, which is like nothing special.
Yeah, it's really not. And his accent was weird.
Yeah, I don't know. His whole conversation with Sarah too was just bothersome.
Yeah, it just again like forcing the whole like I guess more really like the pro like gay stuff like in the Legends. They really make the point often that like, well, people in the past didn't approve and we do support that. It's like, yeah, okay, like I get it. You want to make that point like in the past for one episode, but they do it all the time. And now they like make the point enough times, I think, in this crossover, but it really seems like they go at it like more than once.
Yeah, so it's just there. Even having Finn from Supergirl be here as like the commander for the Resistance.
That was interesting. That caught me off guard.
Yeah, at least with this one, they made his character interesting. Like he actually had like things to do rather than just have the other guy.
Yeah, his character was so different from how his normal character is. It was really interesting, and it wasn't just done for a joke. It was just done to be different. And I like it because like I don't really care for that character normally. That actor is just kind of like, oh, whatever. But now he was like, oh, this guy's actually pretty cool, and I like that ultimately he wasn't swayed by Alex. Or no, well, I guess was it Alex that
it was Alex, yeah.
Okay,
because her whole thing was just like, well, he's my friend, we're best friends on my Earth.
Yeah, see, at first he wasn't giving in, and I like that. I guess I kind of forgot that he ultimately did, though.
Yeah. And while all this is happening, Kara is actually, she stayed behind on Earth 1. And the reason is so that way they can do a heart transplant with her and Overgirl, right? Because if she has a healthy heart, then Overgirl will live, right? She won't be dying from this overexposure to radiation. And we got some scenes with both Karas talking to each other, which was pretty good.
Yeah, I really liked it, and it really emphasized how different she was playing these characters.
Yeah, it was great. Her Overgirl was consistent the whole crossover. She's like my favorite Earth X character so far.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so yeah, they stole a bunch of stuff in the beginning to imitate a red sun, so they could weaken Kara enough, so they can actually do surgery, like normal surgery on her. And I want to know what you think about this, Shelby, because I was a little like, why are they doing this with Reverse Flash? Because Kara's talking to him about how, like, oh, you know, my cousin's gonna get you guys, right? Talking about Superman. And then Reverse Flash talks about how he fought Superman in the future, and was like, he thought he was fast, but I was faster. So is he implying that he beat Superman in the future?
Yeah, I guess so. Which, I don't know how I felt about that. Like, obviously, like, that's not the way that it should go down at all. But I did kind of like the line. It was kind of cool. And I always like hearing about Reverse Flash talk about the future and how, like, there's all this, so much more things that happen that are, like, fantasy and DC and sci-fi and stuff in the future. But, yeah, I mean, it doesn't make sense for it to happen in, like, in Earth 1 or Earth 2, but maybe on just, like, another Earth, if we're implying that he's, like, really gone through the multiverse.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming he's talking about Earth 1, right? Because if he's talking about the future, but...
Yeah, I mean, most likely, in which case I don't like it, but if it's just, like, one of the timelines that he's been in and he did that, okay, I could be okay with that.
Yeah. So yeah, they're doing all this stuff with Reverse Flash, which was, whatever.
Him being, like, the surgeon, I hated. I thought that was so weird. Like, and why was he going so slow? Why not just do the procedure really fast? Like, that could have been a point. Like, oh, we need someone to do this very quickly.
Yeah, because, like, Kryptonian physiology is different or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, just a throwaway line like that. But no, he was going really slowly, and then it just gets really dumb with the Atom later on.
Yeah, so over on Earth X, when they're trying to figure out how to escape, we find out that the Nazis have their own Wave Rider. Which to me felt like, well, the only reason they have it is so that way the rest of the Legends can show up, right?
Yep.
Like, I feel like that's the only reason they're gonna have that Wave Rider.
Yeah, I thought that just didn't make any damn sense at all. It really doesn't hold up why that would be there.
Yeah.
Or why would Rip Hunter come back and, like, give Nazis his thing? I mean, I don't know. I guess it's a different timeline, and maybe Rip's
like,
also a Nazi.
The only difference is, like, the Nazis won the war, you know? It's not like... but, like the... As of this recording, there was a trailer for the animated show where it continues in Earth X. And it's like, there's, like, a bunch of superheroes in there. You know, and I think this is before the crossover, though. Assuming like all these heroes are gonna die at the end of this little mini animated show.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. It bothers me that, like, why would they have a Wave Rider?
Yeah, that I definitely don't like. But it is what it is, I guess. Yeah. So, like, eventually, when the other Legends do show up, I mean, why were the other Legends not there to begin with? Was my question, especially Ray.
Yeah, you would think Ray would be at the wedding, right? I don't know. It doesn't make sense. I mean, I know Jax had a line in the beginning where, like, oh, the Wave Rider's, like, in the Stone Age, literally. So yeah. I guess they were still on a mission, but it's just like, if Ray's not going to be there, why would Mick be there at the wedding?
Mm-hmm.
Right, that's the biggest thing to me, because I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of Mick in this crossover.
Yeah, there really was.
They try to make him like the comedy relief, and I don't know how I feel about that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I forgot to mention too. When Evil Oliver went to Star Labs, Heatwave and Killer Frost went to fight him, and she was freezing his arm, and he had a device that just counteracted her ice powers.
Oh, that's right.
So that was an interesting surprise.
Mm-hmm.
And then Killer Frost was here, and she was just Killer Frost. Or excuse me, Iceman, right at the end of this.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's I was like, what the hell? Like, why is she doing the Iceman thing? And she's never had powers this powerful.
Yeah, it's like they beefed her up for this crossover.
Yeah, big time.
So they're trying to sneak in to go into the teleporter, right? That they have, the breach that the Nazis have. So Oliver disguises himself as Führer, and to convince, not to convince, but to see if this is the real Führer or not. He gets handed a gun to shoot Felicity from Earth X. And this scene, I thought, could have had potential if Oliver brought it up later down the line, like after the fight.
Mm-hmm.
That, like, oh my god, like I almost shot you, and then I started thinking about all like this and that to Felicity.
Yeah, that could have been really interesting, but
they didn't do it. They did something else at the end. And so their cover gets blown. They're fighting everybody in the base, and the Nazis decide to send Red Tornado to go blow up the facility. Which I was like, oh, okay, that's I know I saw him on the poster, but it's interesting to see Red Tornado show up.
Mm-hmm.
As a villain, and he looks way better than he did on season 1 of Supergirl.
Yeah, but it was also just kind of like a little overpowered and a little uninteresting, right? Like, they could have made him an interesting character. It's a shame that he was just like a mindless robot.
Yeah, like there was no character there. He was just like, this is an obstacle that Ray and Barry have to fight.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess Ray's just as fast as Barry when he runs.
Ooh, that really upset me. That really, really bothered me. That's so stupid.
So that's implying, like, if you fly, you're as fast as Barry, right?
Yeah. And again, like you said earlier, like, this is the fastest Barry's ever been. But Ray can just kind of, like, hang out and be as fast. We don't even understand what are Ray's powers even? I don't even know.
It's just light. As far as I know, like, it's a ray of light.
It's got a lot of energy, a lot of strength for light.
Yeah. So they have a hard time with Red Tornado, and then they ended up defeating him by doing a combination of the lightning that Barry throws
which
with
I like.
the rays of light, which was pretty cool.
We didn't get enough of this. We didn't get enough of the characters combining their powers, basically.
Yeah, I felt like that's what they should have went for. And like, yeah, that's very Avengers 1, but no, it should have done it. And so while all this commotion inside is going on to turn on the breach, Firestorm decides to split up, and in doing so, Stein gets shot.
Yep.
And then, he's dying, so they go to the Wave Rider to try to heal him, but it's too late, and the only thing keeping him alive is Jax, and they have this moment to where Stein basically tells him, like, give me the formula that Cisco made so that way you can live and I will die.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I feel about Stein dying in this crossover. I understand that there were stakes and that, like, maybe one hero could have died.
Mm-hmm.
But for it to be Stein, you know, is it for the sake of, like, oh, he was getting ready to be with his family, so we have to have this tragic moment with him?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and, like, you know, we get a funeral at the end, and I don't know how I feel about it.
Okay, so, like, earlier I said, you know, these crossovers, they happen, and then they go back just to normal. It's really boring that way. There's no threats. It's like, okay, well, they actually killed off a character. My first thing is to, like, is he really dead? You know, this is Legends we're talking about. Like, if anybody comes back to life, it's either Legends or, well, I guess it's all of these shows. Everybody always comes back and on all of these shows. But I don't know, is he really going to stay dead? And it just kind of came out of nowhere, to be honest. So it's just like, oh wow, okay, he's dead. And it also didn't make sense because he just got shot twice and Gideon couldn't heal him. They were like, medically he should be dead. It's like, why? Just take the bullet out and heal him.
Yeah,
Gideon.
I mean, that's the other thing too, is like, it makes no sense for Gideon not to save him. And then, like you said, it's like, well, he just got randomly shot. Like, why wasn't there a fight with, you know, with, like, a death I would have been fine with could have been, like, any of these characters. And then Evil Oliver kills them. Right? Like, that should have been it. Is Evil Oliver to prove, you know, that he's this ruthless, tyrant, basically, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that would have been good, is to have him just straight up kill somebody, like, grabs them, and, like, honestly, it should even just be that sudden. It's like, before he has a chance, like, they expect him to do this big speech, blah, 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 and, like, hold hostage. Nope, he just, like, straight up kills them, slits their throat, they're dead, and, like, we don't even have a moment to grieve. We just have to, like, keep going with the action, with the plot, with the thread. That would have been really good. And right off the bat, like, establish, like, okay, anything could happen right now. Like, this guy just died. But they didn't do that. And, yeah, I don't know. It was weird. It was really awkward when Jax went and told his family, and, they all cried. Like, I don't know how I feel about it.
I felt like the acting performance wasn't all there for those scenes with Jax. I don't know, he just fell off during those scenes.
Yeah, his like crying face was just like, yeah.
So they go back to Earth 1. The Atom shows up, like we were talking about, and just knocks out everybody there to save Kara. And then we see, like, he has this new power, like, he could grow any part of his body. And then,
Okay. Well, let's just talk about this real quick. Okay.
Yeah.
Reverse Flash.
Yeah.
Dark Flash. Suddenly, out of nowhere, has no powers and is an idiot. Why? Like, right? Like, okay, so, like, why?
No, yeah,
why?
you're right.
Like, he's super fast, and also, like, not just his ability to move, but his ability to think and his other senses. Like, why would he not realize what's happening? Why would he not react once he does realize? Why does he, like, not even use his powers at all? He, like, literally just lets himself get knocked the fuck out. And I'm just like, and then Adam, like, proceeds to take Arrow out, like, immediately after, like Führer Arrow. Earth X Arrow. It's like, what the hell? Like, why is he this powerful? It was just, like, really upsetting, and I don't know. I mean, it's funny enough, it's almost like Superman showing up and just being, you know,
Yeah.
so I can just handle everybody. It's like the Reverse Flash part really got me. And isn't he like, oh, I'm trying to cut, oh, I can't, I don't know why. It's like, really? Like, really?
Yeah, I was like, what are you trying to say? Like, Kara's just, like, immune to the red sun now? Like, what are you thinking?
Yeah, it's like, why? This is not like Reverse Flash to behave this way at all.
He was written horribly.
Yeah.
And then we get this big scene right after everyone escapes the metahuman prisons, and then Metallo shows back up, and everybody uses their powers to blow him up. Right, we have Vibe, Black Canary, Killer Frost. I think Kara too.
Yeah, it's just like everybody who can be
Who has
firing.
like energy powers, right?
Yeah, anybody who can like project like projectiles of any kind, like shooting anything, they just do it, and it works. It's very much like the end of Logan when the kids kill the one guy, the villain, Donald something.
Yeah. Pierce?
Yeah, Donald Pierce.
Yeah. So that happens, and then they pretty much get prepped to do the final fight. And we get this, this screenshot that's been all over the place for this crossover, where it's like, here's all the heroes. But you look at him like, that's not all the heroes. Like, where's Vibe? You're missing so many characters right here.
And just on that note real quick, so okay, Nazis are like just like indiscriminately killing people for no reason, right? And then the team is like, slow down, we're walking side by side, so watch out. It's like, hang on though, because Barry has super speed and people are literally dying in front of him, but he wants to do like a cool look.
Wasn't Kara walking with them as well?
Yeah, and Kara, like, what? Like, people are literally, like, because they're not just, like, rounding people up. That would be one thing. No, they're, like, literally just killing people in the streets. And I was just like, you're really going to do a slow walk right now? Like,
yeah.
Yeah. I think they should have tried to do it more like the Avengers, where it's, or really like Age of Ultron, where it's like an action shot instead of just, like, a pose.
Are you talking about the scene in Age of Ultron where they're protecting?
Yes.
The Switch? Okay.
Yeah.
No, that would have been a lot better.
The good group shot, not the bad group shot in the beginning of Age of Ultron.
That should have happened, and like even the choreography, like when it's not focused, right? Like the background fight, I thought it was like poor.
Yeah, it really was. It was super weird. It's like, oh, the camera's not focusing on this character, and so it's like the quality drops dramatically, and they're just kind of randomly slapping people and stuff.
Which upsets me because I know that the fighting choreographer for Arrow was working on this crossover.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and like they do such good jobs there.
Yeah, especially like the this season and last season, he's been great.
Mm-hmm. So just seeing that poor quality in the background just kind of upset me.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get Kara fighting Overgirl in the sky, and it's pretty much just been the same fights, right? Like it's all kind of like the same shots where like they'll be fighting and then they'll be spinning while they're shooting their lasers at each other. And so they're fighting, and then all of us, like, I guess Overgirl used too much of her power, and then she just blows up.
Yeah. Yeah, I was really upset that that's how that ended. And
yeah, like she didn't even get like a last little monologue to give Kara.
Well, and not just that, but like, why is it that the Earth 1 people are suddenly like, oh, well, these people are from Earth X, we can just kill them? Like, that's not like them at all. Or to be okay with Supergirl or Overgirl dying as well. Like, normally they would be like trying to save her anyways, I would think.
I think the only people that would kill are is Mick, Sarah, Alex, and I guess Snart. Like I feel like those are the only characters that should be comfortable. Like Team Arrow, they should not be okay with this.
Yeah, and not just that, but like everybody's killing Nazis and they don't care. And the fact that like Oliver so easily kills Earth X Oliver is just really dumb.
It's really dumb because it's like, oh, Oliver, you're just gonna kill all of a sudden, and two, like, why was it that easy to kill him right after he got distracted?
It's so upsetting. Like, I just like it just feels like they're like, oh, let's just throw away character development for cool looking scenes.
Yeah, like this is where it's like it kind of starts falling apart, and then like we said, Dark Flash just he just leaves.
Yeah, right? He's just like, get out of here. He's like, oh, bye.
Like, just leave. All right. And it's like, what? Like, this doesn't feel like you, And Kara got hit with the explosion. So she's falling down, and Citizen Steel ends up saving her, right, from falling. And he was like, well, I figured the Man of Steel should save the Girl of Steel, right? And I was like, what's with this weird reference going on?
Yeah, super weird. And especially because for her, she's like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. Man of Steel's my cousin.
Yeah,
Right?
and it'd be like, well, who are you again?
Yeah.
Because like I don't think they really met in the last crossover.
Yeah, I don't think so.
And the way it gets resolved upsets me too, because yeah, like we said in the beginning, there was no Men in Black showing up from the Invasion crossover. Again, no Justice Society comeback, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone just kind of goes on their separate ways. And this is another thing that bothers me, is that like Ray's going back to Earth X and Snart says, I think I'm gonna stay here for a while. And it's like, why? Like, this isn't even your Earth. This is Ray's Earth.
If anything, it should have been the other way around, right?
Yeah, and he's like, I think I'm gonna stick around for a while, just check things out. And I'm like, so you're going back on Legends?
Yep.
And I know he's filming the last scenes of him as Snart. Like, after this, he's done, apparently.
Yeah, we'll see.
I mean, we'll see. Like, I figured when I read that article, I'm like, oh, so it's the crossover and then he's done, right? No, I guess not.
Mm-hmm.
It's upsetting. I don't know. Everybody part ways. You know, it kind of just ends, right? Like, there's really not much there's really not a lot of them recollecting on what just happened. It kind of just like, everyone's like, okay, time to go home. And Barry, Iris, All and Felicity are all at the park, just talking. And it says like, well, Barry and Iris, let's just get married right now. So they grab Diggle from Star City so they could get married, which is a fine scene, right? This was fine until Felicity, just being Felicity, loudly stumbles into the conversation. We're like, let's get married, Oliver.
Mm-hmm.
And this has so many people, that has a lot of people upset, to the point where like the Reddit page for Arrow turned into the Punisher Reddit page after.
Yeah, I heard about that.
And it just reminded me of I think it was season 4, right? Like, they just got so upset that it turned into the Daredevil subreddit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, yeah, that seems bothersome, and I think what they should have done was, while they were giving their vows, Barry and Iris, while they were giving their vows, when they finished, it should have been Oliver starting his vows, you know?
Yeah.
I think would have been a lot better than just having Felicity like, oh my god, like, let's do this, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really upset that they got married. Why? It was so forced and unnecessary. And I'm bothered that, like, this is how the wedding happened for Oliver, or for Barry and Iris. Like, yeah, I don't want them together, but whatever, it's gonna happen. It's like, oh yeah, we decided after, like, literally talking about planning for it every episode for the past season, like, we're just not gonna do a wedding. We're just gonna do this right here.
Yeah.
I liked seeing Diggle. I don't know why, like, that's the only Diggle that we got. Like, we still could have had more from him, given the circumstance. Well, it's because
he's injured, so he's not fighting anymore, right?
I know, but again, like, okay, like, there was literally, like, no discussion about the fact that, like, there's a Nazi Oliver, and it's like, no self-doubt for Oliver or anything, and like, you wouldn't want to have, like, have Diggle tell him, hey man, that's not you, like, I know you, like, don't, like, there should have been something, but, like, Oliver was totally unfazed. Like, just how Barry didn't really seem like Barry after a little bit of the crossover. He just kind of checked out and was, like, just kind of reacting a little bit. Like, that's kind of how Oliver was for a lot more of it than you would think.
Yeah, it's just, that's the thing, like, we needed more of that, you know, but we never did. And, I don't know, I guess it's just, I think, like, there are definitely scenes that should have been cut out of this crossover, and then you could have easily put those scenes in.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the whole crossover. Overall, I did enjoy it for what it was. But yeah, there's just a lot of complaints like throughout the whole thing, like just particularly scenes and characters.
Yeah, it's the same things that, like, the things that are bad are, like, consistently bad, and the things that are good are pretty consistently good. Yeah, I definitely say, like, overall, I liked it. The best of the past three crossovers, you know, of all the biggest crossovers since we've had Legends. And, I really like that it was, like, a standalone thing. Like, you can't really tell that much that, like, one episode belongs to Arrow or one episode belongs to Flash or Supergirl or whatever. It actually kind of all feels like one cohesive thing.
Yeah, no, it's great. That's the big pointer. Like that's a strong point I had coming out of this, was like, yeah, I'm glad for the consistency and for how the story was written too. I thought it was solid enough to be its own standalone thing.
Yep.
And I do hope that we can get a separate Blu-ray of Crisis on Earth X, right?
Yeah, definitely. It should be a standalone thing.
I think Crisis is strong enough to be by itself, right? Because I know, like, well, Invasion, it would have been nice, but thinking back on Invasion, I was thinking, well, I wouldn't want to have that on a Blu-ray, right? Just by itself, because it doesn't really feel like one consistent plot line.
Yep, exactly.
And so, now the next question is, for next week, is whether or not this is going to affect the shows. I don't think it's going to affect Supergirl that much. I don't even think it's going to affect Flash, right?
Yeah, oddly enough. I guess really just Legends, right?
I guess just Legends because of Stein, and I hope for Arrow, just for those scenes where he could talk to Diggle about how, like, you know, I just saw myself as Führer. You know, like, if I stayed the path I was staying at, like, dark and stuff, like, this would have been me or something, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, that pretty much wraps it up. I mean, just we'll see how it affects the other all the shows next week. But overall, yeah, it's solid. I liked it. Just could have used better writing.
We're getting better each time, so hopefully it just next time it's just another step up.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I know it'll be interesting to see if they add all these other characters into the crossover, you know. Because I want to say we got everybody, but at the same time, I'm not sure. I mean, I was bummed when I found out that Martian Manhunter was not going to be in it again.
Yeah. Another missed opportunity to like make it a bigger team of people that are actually important to see.
Yeah.
I mean, like Citizen Steel not being involved was actually disappointing. And Adam, for that matter. Like, those are both characters that should have been involved. In terms of, like, you want to have like all these superheroes on screen. We'll get characters like that, not like Alex.
Yeah, it definitely should have been that. But yeah, that pretty much wraps it up. And so the next episodes are surprisingly the mid-season finales, which kind of has me a little upset that it's the mid-seasons, right? Especially for Flash because of the whole Thinker plotline going down, right?
That's the thing. See, like, to go directly from this into the crossover after, especially in terms of like, both Arrow and Flash were like building up for their main plot, and then we do this side story, and then we're going back to the main plot. It's like, it's a little disjointed. And I don't think they're going to really reference what happened here. They're just going to be like, oh, back to and what's happening with the Thinker now? It's like, I don't know, you know, or what's happening with the FBI investigation, you know? It's like, is the FBI investigation going to talk about the Nazi Arrow?
Probably not.
right? Like, oh, we saw Green Arrow over here, and you were over there for a wedding, and there was also like a Nazi version of you. I don't know, like she's got all this great surveillance, right? So like, yeah,
Yeah, so I mean, we'll see. It's gonna be something ridiculous. I know that. Because I'm still not liking this FBI lady. I said it on the last Arrow review I did, but I'm still not liking her on the show.
I hate her. It's she's such an obnoxious character, and I'm not really into the whole subplot that much, but it's not as bad as it could be. Like it seems like it's staying pretty consistent in what they're doing with it.
Yeah. Well, so as we wait for the next episodes to come out for the mid-seasons, Shelby, where can we find you at?
You can find me at VegetaX6 on Instagram and occasionally on my podcast, SS Radio, and more frequently on Marvel Talk Podcast.
Yeah, we just had the Infinity War trailer episode drop, and the three of us are in there, so go check that out for sure. And of course, you can follow the page at Unversed Podcast anywhere you go, and you can email us at unversedpodcast@gmail.com. Any question, comments, concerns that you have. What did you think about the crossover? Hey guys, welcome back. Sorry I had to rush with the initial recording, so I didn't get time to read some emails we got about the crossover. So I'm going to check it out right now. Of course, it's again from the boy, Mark Marucio. Also, he has your question, Marcio, initially for the podcast is, I keep forgetting to check the emails when we record. I know episode 101, we were out of it, but yeah, I forgot last episode, but next episode for sure, I'm gonna pull up those emails again, so we can get that. And his question is, so since this is a crossover podcast of all 4 shows, I hope that all the references I make will make sense for the other podcaster for their respective shows, for them to understand them. So let's check out these topics that he wants to ask. On the Arrow side, I thought the showrunner brought back Prometheus because of complaints that the final battle with Green Arrow in the season finale was a letdown. Had a fight for 5 seconds, and Adrian Chase let Oliver punch him for the rest of the episode. Though they would have had a real battle here in the crossover to satisfy fans until I heard that the actor wasn't going to be in the show, so I had a mixed feeling. Then we get the reveal that it was Tommy, which he thinks the CW did because of the major theory last year. People thought Prometheus was Tommy, resurrected by Lazarus Pit, so I thought it was cool they brought that theory to a close, despite it being very short, just hoping that this year finally we have a better fight. Yeah, no, it was... we were talking about that in the episode too, actually, is just that it just sucks that, like, the only reason they grabbed Tommy again is because, yeah, people thought it was Tommy last season as Prometheus, and it's just like, oh, well, let's do it, you know? It's all the fan service stuff, so that way people are more hyped about the crossover, but the only problem is they didn't do much with him, and it got resolved, and it was over within, like, 5 minutes or so, you know? So it sucks because he just came back for a throwaway scene, and that character didn't really matter at the end of the outcome. And now even if he does come back, no one's going to really care because we already got resolved of his character, right? So it's just disappointing of why they did it. And for the Adrian Chase stuff for Prometheus, yeah, it was pretty easy. I mean, to compare it to the crossover, like, Arrow X or whatever he was going by, the Führer, he got taken down so easily. It's like, that's really disappointing. He's such a big play into this crossover, and Adrian Chase was such a big villain last season, you know? It's like, and for them to get taken out so easily, it just sucks. All right, now for the Flash side of things. Okay, we all have to be thinking the same thing. Why was Barry's speed decreased from the crossover? Yeah, we were saying the same thing. Like, why is he so weak? In episode 1 of season 4, he was like 3-4 times his speed than it was last season. Then they nerfed him each episode until the crossover, that he was on the same level as Reverse Flash, right? That makes no sense, because the last time he fought Reverse Flash, beat him up no problem, you know? And he follows the news about Flash, and that he knew from the beginning Reverse Flash was going to make it out, because I guess from last season when Iris survived, Savitar's attacked the newspaper from the future changed to Green Arrow, Hawkgirl, and Hawkman plus Flash versus Reverse Flash, so that was a given. I don't particularly remember that, but I'm gonna have to look at that again. Because I guess they do look at the newspaper, huh? Last season. But yeah, the whole Nerf thing is horrible, and plus having Kid Flash just gone the whole episode's also disappointing. Yeah. Okay, so to Supergirl. Do you think the crossover actually affect Kara and Alex back in their show? Because the last crossover didn't really change much except for Arrow and Flash. Well, for last season, I don't think it really counts because they handled it pretty bad for Supergirl. It was like, oh, it's a 4-episode crossover event, right? But no, it was really 3 because that scene was in the Flash episode. And that was her mid-season finale, so we didn't see anything of that until after the break, and it didn't really affect the team or the show. Maybe I think we were talking about it. I don't know if it really would affect Supergirl as much as we would hope for. I mean, the only thing I could think of is she has some personal talk with maybe with Jimmy Olsen or something, with Jean Jones or something, about the fact that she fought Overgirl and that could be her. Like that's the same path she thinks she's leading herself to by just staying a Supergirl, by staying depressed. So I hope we get that just as much as I hope we get Oliver talk to Diggle about how he just fought a version of himself where he was Fuhrer, P.S. for the Supergirl one is having Mon-El married is a good excuse for him to leave the show when he has to go back to the future instead of random reasons why he can't stay. Yeah, I guess. I mean, I still don't. It's still a weird thing for the fact that he's in the future and that he's married. Now that he's just back, I mean, he was a cool character, and now that the fact that he's pretty much gonna be gone, it just makes no sense, And this is for the Legends podcast. Pretty upset. CW fooled me when we all thought that Martin was gonna leave the show by doing this last adventure and stay with the family afterward. But, like all superhero shows, they have to kill him off. Why? We had a plot already that he was gonna retire. Now have to end the season for Legends always remembering that he's dead. Yeah, it's dumb. You want to know the real reason why they killed him? So they can save money by not doing Firestorm anymore. That's why. I would probably believe that. It's the only canon reason why they would have killed him. And he says, goodbye, Victor Garber, I love you, and ABC Alias. Yeah, it's just dumb. I mean, we were talking about it earlier on this episode, but, yeah, why kill him off? I don't think, like I said, does it have to be because he's gonna go see his family? He's got this big personal thing he's trying to go through, and then so just kill him off so it has a bigger emotional impact compared to other characters? I don't understand why they killed him off, unless it's gonna be some kind of plot point. I don't know. They could have just separated them and he would have just went home, and then we would never see him again because he's retired, right? Maybe an episode here and there whenever Legends goes back to the present so Jax can visit him, but that's it. That's pretty much it. Yeah. So the last question on this email is, did you guys think that they had Tom Cavanaugh play Reverse Flash so they would not have to hire Matt Lesher? Because actors cost money. It was fun seeing Cavanaugh play Reverse Flash, but I hope they explain in the Flash show how he's still alive after Black Flash killed him. Sorry for the semi-long email, and take care. So, I was actually watching a video about this the other night, trying to figure out why, somebody has to have an explanation of why this Flash looks like this. So, reading it, he said, or watching this video, he was basically explaining that this is the Reverse Flash from season 1 of Flash. And he goes on about how the writers for the crossover were like, no, yeah, this is the same Reverse Flash from season 1, right? They pretty much, to me, it sounded like they pretty much didn't care where they grabbed Reverse Flash from, right? Because none of it makes sense, right? If for people like us who watch all the shows, and it's just like, well, wait, hold on, he died in Legends, he was a time remnant, like he's just gone, like unless he's just time traveling again, And basically, it was like the writers were just saying, like, oh, well, yeah, he's just here from season 1. And he was going on about, which does make sense, is that, like, when a speedster dies, they get converted into energy back into the Speed Force. And Reverse Flash just finds a way to break out of the Speed Force and come back in his physical form. And once you do that, though, you are essentially a different version of yourself, right? So they're implying that season 1 Reverse Flash is not the same Reverse Flash that died in Legends, right? And that this Reverse Flash is not the same Reverse Flash as the other two. I could believe that, but it's just, I don't know. I do think that they just didn't want to bring back Matt Letscher. I mean, I don't know what that actor's doing. But, I mean, it's just, like Shelby said, like, hey, here's Tom. We saw him. You want to see him portray a different version of Harrison Wells again, for the 8th time. And that's just, I think that's what it came down to. And that the writers just didn't really pay attention to what happened with Reverse Flash, right? Is what I want to believe. I believe it's just lazy writing. Just how, like, Barry doesn't feel like Barry Allen in this, And yeah, so that's what I think, is that they're either lazy or it's just a canon way of putting it is literally a different Eobard Thawne as he broke out of the Speed Force again, but we don't really have enough information about that on the Flash, and we're probably not going to get anything like that because they're not fighting a speedster in the show, so yeah, who knows. And you said one more thing. Forgot to say this, but who was the waitress lady congratulating Barry at his wedding? Like we said, it's probably like his daughter or granddaughter from the future. And got a couple more. This is him. This is his response to the spoiler-free review that I did. Why do you like the second crossover more than anything else? I understand why you didn't like the third one, but the one with Vandal Savage was better? All I can remember from that special is the annoying arc where Oliver found out about his son, his love drama Felicity, the ever-so-doomed relationship with Hawkgirl and Cisco, and all the B team of Arrow either doing nothing or getting their butts kicked. I still have to say that the first crossover was still the best so far because it was something new and had a nice character interaction with the cast of both shows, and I still love that Arrow versus Flash fight. Just wanted your feedback when you do the podcast. Okay, so yeah, in the spoiler-free review, I said that I think the Vandal Savage crossover, the first official two-parter, right? Whereas the first crossover that he's talking about is actually the 2 separate episodes where the shows crossover. That's season 1 of Flash, season 3 of Arrow. I like the Vandal Savage one a lot because Vandal Savage was such a good villain. And after watching Dominators, of how Dominators just, or Invasion, excuse me, as it's called, it just felt like, yeah, sure, it's a 3-episode crossover, but like there's still elements of the shows in there. It's like, at one point it's a crossover, but then it like tries to break away from that. Like, no, this is still Flash, this is still Arrow, or this is still Legends, right? Like we still feel those elements in the crossover, and we didn't get that in the Vandal Savage crossover, right? I mean, sure, there was like the CW drama, the whole Felicity thing, horrible. And yeah, the whole Hawkgirl Cisco stuff. I mean, I thought it was all right. But no, I mean, plus that Vandal Savage crossover, there was good moments in there between characters, like main characters. You know what I'm talking about, is Oliver and Barry. Like, we got good moments out of there. And sure, yeah, all Team Arrow just not really doing anything. But like, can we really say the same thing about this one? Or heck, even with the Invasion arc, like there's a lot of heroes here, but they're all not being outplayed by their fullest. And there was just a lot of, I think, wrong choices for Invasion. Like, the one particular moment I remember is there's this random Arrow villain who's a cyborg, right, trying to steal future tech or something, and, like, they have to go find her to grab some device or whatever. And so it's Wild Dog teaming up with Flash and Supergirl, and Flash and Supergirl, they're not acting like they're normal characters. They're just goofing around, and then we have this speech about Wild Dog talking about how, like, metahumans, I don't know, I can't trust them because with that power in the wrong hands, it could do a lot of damage and all this stuff, and they're like, oh, come on, man, we're the good guys, right? We're on the same team. And then, they fight this lady, and of course Wild Dog has no chance because she's all metal and he just shoots guns. And then here comes Kara and Barry, take him on, fight's over, and he was like, yeah, you know what? I was wrong about metahumans. You guys are all right. And I was like, really? It just felt so weird for that to happen. And there's just numerous stuff like that. But after watching Crisis, this is still enjoyable. This is way better than Invasion for sure. But I think it's on par with me for the Vandal Savage crossover, mainly because of how many problems I had with this crossover particularly, right? But that's how I feel. And then one last one is just, confirming again that the waitress at the wedding might be Barry's daughter or granddaughter. So yeah, hopefully that plays out at some point in this season. She could be a new speedster, which I'm all for, but now you're gonna have 3 speedsters on the show, and Vibe's not really doing anything anymore, and I can care less for Killer Frost, but man, like, what are we gonna do with Wally? I feel like he's not gonna be doing anything. But yeah, that's all the emails for the crossover. Thank you again for giving us the emails. Remember, it's unversedpodcast@gmail.com, and yeah, just send us some emails, and we'll definitely read them on the show. And so thanks, and now this time we will talk to you next time.